Parliament will convene the National Women's Parliament, and that will happen in Kimberley in the Northern Cape on the 13th and the 14th of August, marking 70 years since the historic 1956 Women's March. To unpack the significance of the event and its focus on women's issues, we're joined now by the Gauteng Provincial Whip in the NCOP and Chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, and that is Seboletswe Mananiso. Good evening to you, and thank you for your time. Just before we get into the theme and everything that will be discussed and the inspiration that you will be drawing from the previous women's charters as well as the 1956 March, let's start with basics. What is the concept of a National Women's Parliament? What happens there?
Okay, thank you. Let me start by greeting your viewers. The purpose of this Women's Parliament is to ensure that we gather the sense of what women from all walks of life are thinking about, where we come from 1956 in terms of the Women's Charter to 1994 up until to 2021 Charter, of which you can note that there's been a significant evolving issues of women with regards to their reproduction health, be it skills development as well, and other issues that speaks to economies. So with this one, we are very clear on what we want to achieve by making sure that we take trace where we come from and what is it that we have now that works for women and what is it that we can reshape and reset to ensure that we respond to their issues.
And who gets
so we are...
Yeah. Sorry, apologies. Do finish that thought.
Yes. So what is important now is the fact that we would want to respond to the current issues, doing different things and responding to those issues immediately. So who because in South Africa, women have many platforms where they are actually collecting their thoughts in ensuring that they shape up what they want to achieve as the better life for all. So now we have to ensure that we collect those particular thoughts and ensuring that we check if they are responsive to their issues. Because you would know the cry of all women in South Africa is about issues of gender-based violence and femicide, and as well the access to funding, access to investment of research and development, more especially for those who are innovation spaces like STI and as well those who are bringing indigenous knowledge to our people.
Who will be in attendance at the Women's Parliament, and how does the selection of who gets to attend and what voices will be represented speak to the theme? My understanding is that your theme for this year will be Wathinta Abafazi, Wathinta Mbogodo, 70 years of resistance, 72 years of vision, advancing gender justice, equality and resilient economies. I'm just imagining then the kinds of people that you need to have in the room when you're discussing this kind of a theme.
One, you should note that South Africa has different women in different spaces, be it from the local sphere, regional sphere, up until to province and national, those who are participating in organized organizations. So we'll be having those who come from the FBOs, CBOs, and as well NPOs, and us who are legislators. Not forgetting those that we are working with in Chapter 9 institutions. They will be part of these discussions because we believe that they can make a significant input in realizing that we need to strengthen accountability in the work that we are doing. And the other thing is that those who are in business as well, they'll be part on the basis that we are acknowledging that as government, we cannot only do this work alone. But business through public-private partnership, they would be able to ensure that they assist us in advancing the work that we are doing as government. So hence I'm saying that we'll be having different women from all walks of life, and those who are marginalized, vulnerable from the rural areas would be the ones who would be key stakeholders of this particular event.
So if we then take around the theme of drawing inspiration from the various women's charters, 1954, 1994, 2021, as well as the Women's March of 1956, what is the element of follow-through, from what once was a set of ideals to strive
Yes.
for in terms of the freedom and equality for all South Africans, but especially for women, to where we are, where there's a framework of rights and entitlements in terms of the equality in our country, but there's clearly a gap as far as follow through on actions to make sure that those are lived realities. So what does follow through look like for you as a women's parliament?
Okay, follow through as a woman, it looks like number one, in terms of 1954, we were about the legal frameworks and dealing with patriarchy and dealing with moral foundations. But then 1994, we were speaking about putting women's rights in the new constitution in terms of legal equality and institutions, as of which you would know now we do have women in different spheres of government and even in business. However, there's more that needs to be done, where we'll be challenging specifically women who are in those senior positions that have like authorities in terms of ensuring that they bridge that gap and include other women. So 1994, we dealt with issues of freedom and we dealt with the issue of inclusion, and as well making sure that there's women in all these spaces where we didn't have a chair to sit or discuss our issues. And then following through 2021, most of the issues was about implementation, was about addressing issues of GBV, economic power, 4IR, and accountability. And then now what we are following through is with regards to whatever that we've been doing in terms of responding to women issues, are those matters healing results that we want, as it being responsive. Yeah. And you would know now the current issue is GBVF that all of us, we are crying loud about, and what we want to come up with, noting that GBVF has been declared a national disaster, is to check how all of us get to be responsive and responsible at the grassroots level. In this instance, local governments should be a critical key stakeholder with regards to maximizing their structures and system in place to respond to such issues.
In fact, you lead me to my next question, because ours is one of those countries where, commendably, we are a leader in as far as women representation in the legislatures is concerned, right? And we can still do more, but we certainly have taken the first strides in the right direction. Talk to me about whether that's translating to holding government accountable. In the last hour, my guest, Matshidiso Lengwasa, was talking about no follow-through in as far as budget following the declaration of GBVF as a national disaster, saying that you just don't see that translating to the line items, the departmental budgets that speak to this issue and responding to that issue. So what I'm asking you is, what more do we need to do to ensure that women representation in spaces like Parliament translates to foregrounding of those issues that we have all said are priorities?
Okay, to that question that we are asking, one is to say that we need to capacitate everybody in terms of what is it that we mean when we say that we need responsive budget. We need to see our policies, being drawn from gender lenses, in a sense that they include everybody, regardless of class, race, and sex. We would know LGBTQIA plus society, they are part of those who are vulnerable and marginalized. So what one could say with regards to this is the fact that the ministry actually of monitoring and evaluation in the presidency, they have a framework on how do they follow through if whatever that we have put in place as policies are happening per department. So there's accountability. However, it's minimum in a sense that there's no consequence management for those who are supposed to execute that responsibility of ensuring that they enforce and strengthen the work and the law that is there, that speaks to issues of BBEE, of which BBEE, it actually covers issues of women because of their previously disadvantaged. Issues of preference, procurement, supply chain, people, they don't ensure that they bring women forth as people who are supposed to be actually benefiting in terms of the 40%. So I always say to people, when the president announced the 40% procurement for women businesses, actually everybody from top to bottom, they were just supposed to implement the thing and ensure that they call those who are in those departments like your supply chain to ask them, what is it that you are doing as there's this particular pronouncement? Because some of the things is that you get in the municipalities, for example, you do have HR managers who are female, but if you can ask them in terms of their status quo on people who are employed in those offices, I can tell you, you would get that male are, many than females in terms of those senior positions. So we want to challenge everybody who's female, who's in position of power, to ensure that they don't become bystanders and they don't actually, promote patriarchy, but ensure that they dismantle all those systems that we feel that they are rigid based on those that are actually guarding them and who are appointed to oversee and do the work. Well, so as Parliament, we want to just make sure that this time around, people get to know that we're no longer discussing what needs to be done, but we are discussing how can we do this. We are changing the approach in terms of what is it that we need differently to respond to your issues. Well,
ma'am, I've got to thank you for setting the scene for us so well. And it sounds from the discussion we've had like it's going to be a lively session of the National Women's Parliament. That is the Gauteng Provincial Whip in the National Council of Provinces, but also the chairperson of the Select Committee on Security and Justice, Seboletswe Mananiso, talking to us about the upcoming National Women's Parliament to be held in Kimberley.